So hey there folks, welcome. Today's video is about finding an apartment and it's called Tips for Finding an Apartment in Vietnam. So I thought I'd run through what I think are the most important things to consider and what are the problems you might face when you're looking for an apartment here. I've been here for over, must be 7 years now. So I've moved many times and I've lived in studios, I've lived in 1 and 2 bed apartments, I've lived in houses. So I got a good idea as to what you can find here, what you can expect, and what you need to look out for when you're heading for a place to live here long term. If you're new to my channel, my name's Chris. I live in Vietnam. I try to give informative and somewhat interesting videos about life in Vietnam. And I do this from the saddle of my e-bike here, and I tour around the city, just giving you my thoughts. So today guys, I'm heading from An Phu into District 1. It's only about a 12-kilometer ride, and we're going to talk about finding an apartment in Vietnam. So I get a lot of questions about this on my channel. People often email me and say like, is this a good price? Is this a good area? And invariably no. The answer is normally always no. And shopping for an apartment from afar is never a good idea. You need to be here on the ground in Vietnam. So my first tip would be, don't really book anything, especially long-term rentals from outside the country. Do it after you've been here for a couple of weeks. Book an Airbnb if you have to, book a hotel if you have to. But nothing beats being able to see the apartment, the house, being able to look around, see what construction or roosters you've got going on next to you. So yeah, always try to take a look before you commit to anything. My second tip would be, don't deal in US dollar. This is Vietnam. The currency is Vietnamese dong. And you may have been led to believe that, US dollar are accepted everywhere in Vietnam. No, that's just not the case. It's not like Cambodia. You need to use dong here. Of course, people are not going to turn you away if you have US dollar, but you really need to negotiate in dong, and especially now as the rate's around 24,800, it's really shot up. So you're seeing more and more landlords going back to the old ways of quoting in US dollars, which is really annoying. So they can then make about 10% more than they would have done, say, a month ago. Tip number 3, well, what about employing or using a real estate agent? Well, there's no regulation here, and what you'll find is every other person you meet here seems to be some sort of real estate agent. And it's really strange. But I'll tell you why I think that's the case, and it's because of the generally fairly low wages here, and they can make a lot of money from letting an apartment. So for example, if you sign up someone to a 6-month contract, you'll typically get half a month's rent as commission. If you can push someone to sign up to a 12-month contract, the landlord, through negotiation, will probably give you a month's commission, which is a lot of money when you're talking about especially expat houses and apartments. And so you can see why a lot of local people fancy themselves as a real estate agent. Most of the adverts you see on Facebook and Cho Tot, which I'm going to put on the screen now, is a local marketplace. And I would recommend having a look on here. It is pretty good for finding places, but a lot of them are fake leads. And most of them will be like a student who's moonlighting as a real estate agent. And yeah, some of them are good, they're not all bad, but in my experience it's a bit of a nightmare because nothing that's advertised is ever available, and they're working for the landlord, they're not working for you. So they want to push you to a 12-month contract. They want you to sign straight away because then that locks in their commission. Can you avoid using an agent here? Well, it's difficult. The Facebook groups are pretty good for property deals. Often you'll see landlords advertising on expats in Ho Chi Minh City, for example, Da Nang and Hoi An expats. I'd recommend definitely having a look on there. And if you can, I definitely recommend dealing direct with the landlords. Number one reason is they'll be more amenable to you because they don't have to pay any commission, so you may get a better deal. Number two reason is you will get to know them, and I think it's really important to have a good landlord here because there's some really dodgy ones. So try to go by your gut feeling as you would with anybody and filter out the ones that are a little bit difficult. Unfortunately, most of them are all over the world. So my next tip would be, where can you look? Where can you go to find apartments, houses here? Well, if you've got a good social network, word of mouth, someone's moving out, you could perhaps take over their lease. Facebook groups seem to be very popular, so as I mentioned previously, any kind of Facebook group with Vietnam in the title is going to be spammed with real estate ads, but it doesn't mean they're all bad. You can spend a bit of time filtering through, contacting people. Another place would be Chua Tot, and I'll put that on the screen now. This is a local Vietnamese marketplace. It's in the Vietnamese language. It's kind of like maybe the Craigslist of Vietnam. And here you can see a lot of adverts for houses, apartments, etc. But you may need to use Translate or get a Vietnamese friend to help you here. What are the pitfalls to watch out for when you're house hunting or apartment hunting here? Well, as I already mentioned, deal in Vietnamese dong, don't deal in US dollar. Don't send any money beforehand. Don't send any money actually before you've got the keys. There's stories of people sending over 2 months deposit, turn up at an address and there's nobody there. And this does happen on occasion here. So wait until you got your keys in your hand before you hand over any substantial amount of money. Yeah, it's okay to say perhaps hand over 15 or 20% as a retainer. I've done that before. So maybe I'll send over 2, 3, even 4 million. But that's pushing it. Vietnamese dong to retain an apartment for a week or two until I'm ready to move. And again, guys, go with your gut feeling on that one. Make sure you get a good feel from the agent, the landlord, and the place that you're looking at. Location, location, location. As is the case everywhere else, or pretty much everywhere else in the world, location is the number one factor, or one of the highest factors when dictating price when you're looking at property. And of course it's no different here in Vietnam. You can see these are new apartments being built in front of me here, just by the 2-team area. So this is a great spot if you want to be close to District 1. But these kind of apartments tend to start at around $800 or $900 a month for a 1-bed and go up from there. So if you put that into the context of life in Vietnam, that's super high. But you know, if you want luxury and you want that kind of high level place to live, then yeah, go for it. Okay, so a lot of the higher end apartments are rented out by companies on an expat. People come over on an expat package, so maybe they'll get $800, $1,000 a month for housing, and they're not going to negotiate. They don't care. They'll just rent. So what you see is kind of an artificial inflation of the higher end of the market here, because there's not much negotiation, because companies will just come in and pay, you know, $1,000 a month. Someone coming in from Hong Kong, Singapore, that's pretty cheap for accommodation. So I know people who get like 2.5, 3K allowances for housing. They'll go and rent a villa, 40, 50 million, and rent it for 2-3 years, job done. So be wary of that. If you're going higher end, you might have a more difficult time negotiating. But the sweet spot for prices, again, is fairly subjective, but they're definitely going up here. So a 1-bedroom in an overland type development, probably between 10 and 12 million, 2-bedroom between 13 and 16. If you're going up into higher end places, for example, the Vinhome Central Park area, then you're looking at about 13 mil for a studio, maybe 17 for a 1-bed, and probably above 20 million for a 2-bed, so $800 and up for a 2-bed. So you are paying quite a bit for it. God, the air pollution really bad today. You can probably see how hazy it is. Also, another really important tip, folks, in regards to location is try to see the apartment at least twice at different times of the day. So see it during the day when it's probably going to be quiet, and see it after 7 p.m. at night if you can. And that would probably be my number one tip, because some of these places, they get super noisy at night time. People coming home from work. You may have kids running around in the hallways, people cooking with their doors open, and it can get a bit annoying. So see the apartment at least twice if you can before committing, and then make up your mind. And my final tip for you today, folks, is be mindful of where the apartment is located. So for example, if there's a patch of land right next to you, in front of you, behind you, there's a very good chance that in Vietnam that land's going to be built on in the very near future. And I've made this mistake before. I thought, oh, that's nice, it's got nice empty space, a little bit quiet, and then 2 months into a 12-month lease, along come the boys, 24-hour building work, construction, absolute nightmare. So be very mindful of empty lots around you, and be cautious of renting if you see that, and don't ask the landlords or the agent if they're going to build here soon, because the answer will always be no. Also, if you're quite sensitive to noise like me, you need to check for things like roosters, dogs near the apartment, because it's very common, even in the city centre here, for people to keep roosters in cages, and they will crow incessantly day and sometimes night as well. And even though they're not allowed to have them here, there's not a lot you can really do about it. Same goes for dogs. Often dogs are chained up outside or put into cages, not always, but often they are, and they'll just bark incessantly. And again, no one's going to really care if you make any kind of complaint. In fact, you probably cause trouble for yourself. When you're negotiating leases, I'd always tend to go on the side of a 3 or 6 month. A little bit more difficult to get a 3 month, but they'll definitely do it. 6 months seem to be standard, then it goes on to a rolling contract where you or the landlord just give 1 month's notice. A lot of places will ask for 12 months, but you're kind of treading into the unknown there. If you sign a 12-month lease and you get construction next year, or you get really shitty neighbours after a while, then you're stuck basically, and you risk losing your deposit if you have to move. I know people who've done that. They've moved because of construction, things like that, and they've lost their deposit. So I tend to go for a 6 months lease, or even a 3 month if you can. Negative side of that, of course, is landlord may want to put the price up after 3 or 6 months, and with a longer lease you can lock in the price for a longer amount of time. So swings and roundabouts, right? In regards to deposits, 1 month is typical for rooms, studios, serviced apartments, or any kind of bigger, especially furnished places, houses, 1 and 2 bedroom developments. You're looking at a 2 month deposit. Don't give 3 months. I've heard of people asking for that. You don't need to give 3. 2 months, absolute maximum. And fingers crossed, it'll all work out for you. Okay, folks, there we have it. Just want to give you some insight about renting here. I've been here a while, and I've done and seen it, most of it. So hopefully that'll help you if you're thinking of coming to Vietnam and living here for a longer period of time. Take it easy. Have a great day, folks.